I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Throws up with the head to the shot. At the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, Bucs fans, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Believe it or not, our second emergency podcast on this topic this week. Coming to you live on YouTube today with some shocking news about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and now former offensive coordinator Liam Cohen, it seems like. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. I'm going to let you open this one up, Evan. We have got a scandal, if you will, happening in Tampa Bay. Some Bush League behavior is what we described it as before the show. What exactly is going on with Liam Cohen right now?
Yeah, so this is this is unprecedented stuff here. Obviously something the Buccaneers did not see coming, something I did not see coming, something nobody really saw coming. Thought maybe something was afoot as the day went on today, and he didn't really hear a ton. It was kind of quiet. Early afternoon, I still had some confidence. As the day went on, though, it got a little weird. And then all of a sudden, it comes out that, well, Liam Cohen is in Jacksonville right now interviewing, and it's going to be, potentially, most likely be the head coach, right? It's not a done deal officially. But then more comes out. And this is the part that I didn't really necessarily expect. And I think this is the part where every single Bucs fan has the right to be angry. And the Buccaneers themselves, Scott Reynolds of Pewter Report, said on his podcast, the word he used is the Buccaneers front office and the Buccaneers coaching staff are furious. They are absolutely irate right now at this situation. He said that Liam Cohen told Jason Licht, Todd Bowles, the Glazers, Baker Mayfield, and his entire coaching staff yesterday that he was staying. And now all of a sudden there has been a dramatic turn of events. Liam Cohen appears to be headed to Jacksonville to be their head coach. And this is something to where the Bucs didn't know, right? Because Liam Cohen did not contact them at all today. The Bucs made multiple attempts to contact Liam Cohen throughout the day. He was not able to be reached, and it wasn't until about right before or right after. It was very shortly when the national media picked it up that Liam Cohen called Todd Bowles and told him. But by that point, Bowles had already knew. So, it is Scott Reynolds also described it as a betrayal. That's, and I know that's, the title of this episode basically, is the word, betray, right? Basically, not necessarily that Liam Cohen took the job, right? That's not the point here to me.
It's just the fashion and the smoke and mirrors behind
yes.
it. It's telling this organization one thing and then directly going behind their back and speak. And from Rick Stroud, listen, first things first, I want to say that there are only 32 NFL coaches in the world. So we understand that Liam Cohen doesn't, you never know when you're going to get that opportunity again. We made a lot of points on the show earlier this week about why it would make sense for him to stay in Tampa Bay. I'm sure he has his own list of reasons as to why it would make more sense for him to attempt to assemble his own staff in Jacksonville. There was a report rumbling around this week after they fired GM Trent Balk that they were going to make another run at Liam Cohen. The quote that I had seen used was, "Make him say no twice." And I think the Jags firing Trent Balk this week showed that they were very serious about making Liam Cohen say no twice. But let me just read you what happened here. So to be clear, everything that Evan said.
And again, this is just one thing, right? We don't know about the 100% validity of this, but it is Rick Stroud. So, I mean, it's a notable reporter.
This is from Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times. To be clear, Liam Cohen contacted head coach Todd Bowles around 5 p.m. on Thursday. He said he had been with one of his kids who had taken ill at a doctor's office. He also mentioned the Jaguar situation briefly, saying he wanted to look back into it. So, not only can Liam Cohen wait until after the news comes out to take responsibility, but he's got to pin it on his sick kids as well. So I hope his kids are great. I hope they're not entirely sick and they can get the medication they need. But unfortunately, their father, listen, I know it's been said a lot, and I know that a lot of fans are going to be very emotional about what happened. I mean, again, this is unprecedented. We really haven't seen anything happen like this, especially for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in recent history. But I think Liam Cohen showed exactly the kind of integrity he has with a move like this. It's Bush League stuff. It really is. I know the NFL is a business. I know that there are only so many head coach jobs to go around, and I completely understand why he did what he did. It's just the fact that he did what he did and the way that he did it is obviously going to be leaving a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouth for a very long time. But yeah, I have no doubts in my mind that the Buccaneers front office is very pissed off about this too.
Yes, yeah, they're not happy, and at this point, I mean, I had speculated this, and Reynolds kind of backed it up that even like if there's a snafu right in the Jaguars and Liam Cohen negotiations. I don't even expect Liam Cohen to return to Tampa Bay. I think the Buccaneers would find someone else. I don't think they want him back at this point. That's how angry they are, and that's how hurt they are by this. And again, it's not that it's one thing, to say, last night or today, if you say, hey, like, I sort of am, I'm thinking about it again. I know I said that, but I'm thinking about it again. That's one thing. But to not answer any calls, to be, keep your employer who, by the way, who just offered you a raise, a substantial raise. And I understand it's not head coaching money, but a substantial raise, to keep them in the dark about all of this. Meanwhile, you're planning to leave after you said you were staying. That's the part where I think, a lot of Bucs fans and the Bucs themselves are not happy with. I think they would have been bummed had Liam Cohen left, but I think this is what makes them angry, because they were basically, hoodwinked, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is it's the matter of it's the way he went about it. It is ghosting the organization, like quite literally on the day that he's supposed to come in and sign his contract. No call, no shows, travels up to Jacksonville because of his sick kid.
In secret. Secret.
Right. And then once the cat's out of the bag, that's when he takes responsibility, which again is just incredibly disappointing. It is the nature of the business. Head coach money is not the same as coordinator money. It's a business. I understand why he did what he did. It's going to make a lot of people very upset, including the Buccaneers front office, especially now that the cat is out of the bag. And the more details we learn, the more we realize that this was a conceited effort by Cohen to just keep this away from Tampa Bay, at least, keep their knowledge of it away until after the fact, until probably after he was offered the job or had the decision on his table. Was he going to let them know what his true intentions were? But let me ask you this before we get into some other coaching change-ups for Tampa Bay, because there are a couple that we're going to talk about, some stuff that we had touched on earlier this week. But a lot of people, again, this goes back to what I said about people are going to be emotional because of a move like this, and a lot of people are very upset. A lot of people had a lot hanging on Liam Cohen coming back in Tampa Bay. The upside, all the positives that we spent 45 minutes talking about just a couple of days ago. A lot of people feel like that this is Liam Cohen making a decision on his own because maybe the Bucs just didn't make him a good enough offer, or maybe he felt disrespected by having to come back under Todd Bowles. I personally don't think it's either one of those.
Yeah.
Do you want to just kind of, I guess, dispel some of that as well?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if you felt disrespected, nobody said you had to accept the offer. Nobody said you had to withdraw your name. He agreed to become, to stay with the Bucs for a raise. Nobody forced you to agree to that. Demon Hunter in the chat says, Evan, are you saying that the Glazers are going to potentially revoke the contract offer? Yeah, I don't expect Liam Cohen to be back. So if the Jaguars job, if that thing falls through, good luck getting a job in the NFL, to be honest with you, Liam Cohen, because he just burned a bridge with an entire organization. And again, we'll talk about the next episode, right? Next podcast, we will talk about potential, offensive coordinator candidates. But this isn't really the podcast for that. This is just to give you guys a breakdown, and I'm not even sure of how long we're going to be on, but this is just to give you guys a breakdown of what went down and what's going on. So, yeah, I don't believe that Cohen is going to be back. They are not happy, and it's just the way it went about. He accepted the offer, and yeah, it's not fair. Now, the question you asked, was he disrespected and was it this or that? Like, no, I don't think that. I think this was based on the turn of events, right? I think he had interest in the Jacksonville job, and that's fine, right? That's perfectly fine. That's his right to be interviewed and everything, have interest. Um, but then, he interviews virtually, was going to be scheduled, in person, on Wednesday, and then doesn't go. I think with, some things with Trent Baalke, whatever. Um, and then, the Jaguars end up firing Baalke, and I guess at that point, maybe the wheel started spinning a little bit, right? And the Jaguars, I think the Jaguars love Liam Cohen. I think they literally, I think they have zeroed in on him and want him to be their head coach. Like, they were blown away by him.
And outside of this scenario, it's hard to not love Liam Cohen. I mean, we were singing his praises and jumping and dancing in the streets because he had agreed verbally to come back to Tampa Bay just a couple days ago. He is a special guy, and NFL teams absolutely see that. The Jaguars see that. Now, they haven't done a very good job with their head coaching hires lately. Maybe this one plays out the same way. But it showed you just how serious they were to move on from Trent Baalke, who really has been, I would argue, a thorn in their side when it comes to the coaching search these last couple of times they've had to go through the cycle.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the reasons they didn't have as good of a shot to get Ben Johnson, too. So... look, stuff like that, and that's fine. You can have second thoughts. You can, the Bucs were left at the altar. It was by
Chip
Bill
Kelly.
Parcells, right?
Yeah,
And Chip
Parcells
Kelly.
and Chip
It's
Kelly,
happened
yeah.
twice. But however, this situation's a little different just because of the matter of how he went about things. That's the difference there. So, like I said, I know that the Buccaneers organization is not happy. They have every right not to be happy, because they were essentially, again, they were lied to. They were essentially lied to, and the more that comes out, the more we're sort of realizing that what exactly went down. That the Buccaneers, they've tried to contact him, time and time again, and there was no response from Cohen. They tried to contact Cohen himself and Cohen's agent, and there was no communication there. So, it's something where the Buccaneers were trying to figure out what was going on. They didn't know themselves, and they didn't find out their answer until it was too late. So it is an unfortunate thing that happened to Tampa Bay here. I can't really say it's in their control. I mean, I know the real critics are going to say, well, they could have just fired Todd Bowles and promoted Liam Cohen. But, I mean, really, if this is the type of stuff that a guy like Liam Cohen is going to pull, well, then, do you really want him being the leader of your football team anyway, right? So, that's another reason why I think the Buccaneers would not really welcome him back. And that'd be an awkward situation. How are you... how are you going to come back and say, yeah, well, all good here. It's, yeah, sorry about that little thing on Thursday, but it's all good.
No, it's a very
That'd be weird.
it's a very poor showing of character. Someone else had said that in chat and made a great point. We say it's Bush League stuff. It reminds me of something you would hear about in college football, to be honest with you. Like, do you remember when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame? Just left them, right? After kind of lying to them the week before. Like, that is the culture in college football, where it's not necessarily acceptable to do that. But when you're a coach of a program with 150 players or whatever it may be, it might sting a little bit less. Yeah. So to recap the first 15 minutes of the show for anybody just joining us, a couple of days ago, Liam Cohen was the Jags' top target for their head coach position. He was set to interview on Wednesday, but then announced he was going to withdraw his name and come back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was announced that he would be signing a contract with the Bucs to make him one of the higher paid coordinators in the NFL. The Jaguars freaked out. They fired GM Trent Baalke. They reached back out to Coen, asking if he would reconsider. Coen had not signed his Buccaneers contract yet, started engaging with the Jags again behind Tampa Bay's back against their knowledge. Now, right now, as we record this, Liam Cohen is at the Jaguars facility in Jacksonville trying to finalize a deal. Meanwhile, the Bucs have not been able to get in touch with him all day when he was supposed to be at One Buc Place today to sign his contract to return as offensive coordinator in 2025 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there it is. There it is.
Who was that from there?
That was from Ari Mirov, My Sports Update on Twitter. He had a nice recap of the situation there. Just all the cliff notes, if you will.
Yeah. So I mean, look, it's a situation that I think nobody really expected to be in, especially 24 hours ago. Nobody really expected to be in this situation, but and I understand, things happen fast in the NFL, right? Things can change quickly. That's not the point of this, though, right? The point of this is the way it happened and the way he went about it. So, he could have gone about it a different way, I think. And the way he went about it just wasn't right, and it doesn't sit right with the Buccaneers. So we'll see what happens. I mean, all signs are it'd be a stunning development if Liam Cohen did not get the Jacksonville job at this point. But the Buccaneers were blindsided by this, had no idea this was happening, and now when they thought they had their offensive coordinator all locked up for the 2025 season, and the Glazers, the Glazers making a big time commitment. Paying him goes 4.5. It was reported, coaches' salaries aren't like that widely known, but paying him about $4.5 million because it was going to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in the NFL. That's a commitment that they made to Liam Cohen. So, and you agree to that, and and even if, let's say, they make you that offer, he still could have said, listen, I wanna kind of hear things out, right? Hear Jacksonville out. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. But that's not what happened here. And it leaves the Bucs in a very, it's a familiar situation, right? Because now they're going to be, for the third straight offseason, they're going to be searching for a new offensive coordinator. But it is not a good situation for the Buccaneers to be in.
So we do have conflicting reports here very quickly on some developments in Jacksonville with Robert Saleh. Jordan Schultz reported about 10 minutes ago that sources say Robert Saleh just landed in Jacksonville for what was supposed to be an interview tomorrow with the Jaguars, but Michael Silver quoted that report, says Robert Saleh did not, in fact, fly to Jacksonville today as he waited for developments to unfold. So again, I think if Saleh makes the decision to not fly out today, the Jaguars probably let him know their intentions. And
Diana Rossini also said the same thing, that Robert Saleh never left New Jersey for Jacksonville.
All right, so let's just nip that misinformation in the bud right there, waiting to see what happens with this Liam Cohen situation. But like you said, I don't see a scenario where he doesn't get the head coach job for the Jags Correct. At this point. And like you said, if that is the scenario, then it'll be interesting to see where he ends up, because it certainly will not be back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would wish him all the best, but I don't think he deserves it, to be quite honest with you. So let's get into some more coaching news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Earlier this week, we had talked about Buccaneers co-defensive coordinator, run game coordinator, and defensive line coach Casey Rogers interviewing with the Packers. Well, he takes a job in the NFC North, but it is not the Packers. He joins the Lions as their new defensive line coach. They are going to replace Terrell Williams, who had become the Patriots' defensive coordinator. Rodgers had been with Todd Bowles since 2015. Now, Casey Rogers' contract in Tampa Bay was up, but we talked about it earlier this week. Despite how good this defensive line has been against the run game over the last several years, it sounded like this was a decision the Bucs knew was. It sounds like it was a change the Bucs knew was going to be happening anyways with his contract being up.
Yeah, this sounds like a sort of a mutually parting of ways. So, the Casey Rogers thing sounds more like a both sides may be ready to move on. Yeah, Rodgers' contract was up. Buccaneers seem content to let him go, and now, yeah, he's in Detroit. Buccaneers don't seem as content to let the other coach go that could potentially be going to the Detroit Lions, though.
Yeah, that is Bucs inside linebackers coach and former Steelers linebacker Larry Foote. He is expected to interview with the Detroit Lions for their vacant defensive coordinator position. Larry Foote played collegiate football at Michigan and also played one season in his NFL career with the Lions. So, again, these are some changes that a lot of fans might be surprised about, but believe it or not, I'm sure that they were clamoring for some changes like this over the last several weeks of the season. Change is going to be coming on both sides of the ball, and the Buccaneers potentially could be in the market for both the new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. I know Todd Bowles kind of runs the show on the defensive side of the ball, but to some degree, I think you still need a front man there, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny, Casey Rodgers and Larry Foote were acting as co-defensive coordinators.
Yeah.
So the Bucs would like to retain Larry Foote. Richard says supposedly Bucs offered money to Rodgers. I have not personally heard that, but yeah, they would like to retain Larry Foote. So we'll see if they can. So we'll see what happens here. A couple more things going back to the Coen thing. So it's actually funny because this pops in my head now, and I can't remember exactly where this was. I can't remember who said it. I can't remember if it was on Twitter, if it was on Instagram, whatever it was. It was a Kentucky fan, though. Okay, a Kentucky Wildcat fan. And it just, like I said, this situation it popped into my head again because I had seen it. It was either right after the Bucs had hired Coen or right when like Coen was maybe like mid-season getting a little bit of head coaching buzz. He had said like Coen is, and this was sort of more his words, said about how Coen is a snake, like a snake in the grass, basically, that he has done this to Kentucky a couple times. And yeah.
What happened with John Spytek? I was going to wrap up with the John Spytek going to the Raiders story, and it sounds like he could be pulling a Liam Cohen here with the Raiders. What's going on with John Spytek? Do you know the details on that?
I mean, I haven't, unless there's something that happening like right this second. So the Raiders actually, they haven't announced either.
He hasn't signed yet with the Raiders,
yes,
and
correct,
and maybe
correct.
the Liam Cohen thing has a lot of teams paranoid. But I'm looking up, I'm looking up, some updates on John Spytek, and he hasn't officially signed, but. The news that we were going to report is that the Raiders finalized the deal this week to hire Buccaneers assistant general manager John Spytek as their new general manager. And this is a move that we had talked about. I mean, there's been a couple of seasons where we've talked about the possibility of losing John Spytek, but I think people really underestimate the importance that he has, not only in the front office, but as an advisor to Jason Light, especially throughout the draft process. He's been one of their really, really important front office guys at minimizing the cap damage every year and helping scout talent.
Yeah. So Albert Breer said more detail on the Liam Cohen situation. The Buccaneers offered him a 3-year deal on Monday to make him their OC, the highest paid coordinator in NFL history. It was contingent on him not taking the second interview with the Jags, which is the reason for the secrecy on the Jacksonville visit. So decides to agree to a deal, then says, well, I'm going to take this anyway. And I have to, that because he has to do it in secret because then the Buccaneers would leak that. And, so yeah, it's very, very interesting stuff here. And like I said, we have more information coming out, obviously, but it is quite the Thursday night, I guess, right? I didn't really thought we were going to be, all right, we got the news out of the way early yesterday, right? Thought, okay, well, this week should be fairly simple. Not the case, right? And then there was, I mean, and we don't know this, right? But about Spytek and stuff, because yeah, you're right. John Spytek did get the Raiders job, or reportedly about to be the Raiders job, which you don't know at this point, but there was rumors that like Liam Cohen would want to take his own GM with him, and that was like the rumor about Ben Johnson too. Like he would want to have a say in like who the GM was, and so maybe I mean, could the Raiders be being spurned as well? Who know? Could Tom Brady and the Las Vegas Raiders be spurned? I don't think so. I mean that's just my opinion. I don't think so. It's a little bit of a different situation. But I mean, hey, you never know. I thought Liam Cohen was going to be the Bucs offensive coordinator, so we will see. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll be back, at some point next week to talk about potential candidates and stuff like that. Because we also had to see, if Cohen does take this job, which again, it's expected that he will. Um, we'll see if uh how many offensive coaches he takes with him, who's going to be on his staff in Jacksonville. So that's something we're gonna have to wait and see. So because a lot of the guys, the Bucs could look internally, but you'll have to wait and see who Liam Cohen takes. So we will see what happens. But yeah, just a wild last, I don't know, 2 hours basically, for the Buccaneers and for their fans, and the media just sort of running wild here. So it's been a whirlwind.
And just to reiterate here, more from Albert Breer on that report. Fair to say that Cohen is on track to become the Jags' next head coach, and he is almost certainly done with the Buccaneers either way. So again, cannot drive the point home enough that if things fall through in Jacksonville, he's now without a job. He'll probably get a job, and he'll be just fine as an offensive coordinator.
Yes,
but,
he is not. He will not be in Tampa Bay.
He'll get a job, but if he doesn't get this head coaching job, he will not be back in Tampa Bay.
So anybody holding out hope that oh my God, can the Glazers, can they fire Bowles and remote him, or maybe okay if the things fall through with the Jacksonville Jaguars, doesn't matter. He will not be back in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and if it ultimately works out and he gets a head coaching job in the NFL, then great for him because that's what he wanted at the end of the day. And like we said at the top of the show, cannot fault any person for wanting to take a job like that. I mean, for a lot of people, for many coaches, it is a dream job. There are only 32 of those in the world. So I completely understand. You don't know if you're going to get that opportunity down the road, but lying to your team after telling them that you'd be back is obviously not a great look. So Jacksonville, they are certainly building a team up there, a team of fucking liars. And you better watch out because they're going to come steal your guys next. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that's just about going to do it for this emergency episode of the Cannon Fire podcast. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. The most untrustworthy team in the NFL up there in Jacksonville, the Jaguars. Again, certainly having an offseason for themselves so far. Maybe it'll pull them out of the dirt. Maybe it won't.
Just saying. AEW is a trash company. So
snakes, man.
Yeah.
The Jacksonville Vipers.
AEW sucks. Okay. Just let's all just if there's one takeaway from it, let's just take away that AEW is a second-rate organization.
Yeah, and the Jags are a second-rate bunch of guys as well, a bunch of scheming assholes up there. This is them getting us back for the whole Byron Leftwich situation, in my opinion. I think it's been a long time coming.
But I want to actually, because you compared it to that earlier before we started, and it's a little different though, right? Because that was Leftwich.
Leftwich ran himself out of town. Yeah, it was
because of Balky. Remember, he wanted to bring, I forget exactly who it was. He wanted to bring his own GM. The Jaguars said no, and Leftwich withdrew himself. But he didn't leverage that into another offer, right? So the Jaguars didn't fire Trent Baalke there and say, Byron Leftwich, we really need you. So, yeah, an unfortunate turn of events for Tampa Bay. Now they have to look again to reset at the offensive coordinator position. Most likely, I'm 99.9% chance because even if things fall through, there will not be a Liam Cohen in Tampa Bay next year. So that does suck for the Buccaneers. And we'll have to wait and see, what they turn to at this point.
Follow my co-host Evan Wanish on Instagram and Twitter. Instagram at Bucs_Daily. You can find him on Twitter at EvanNFL and check out his written work at BucsNation.com. I know your plans got changed a little bit today, but anything new on the agenda for this week?
At this point, I don't know if them rookie grades are ever going to come out. I mean, every time I try and plan to do it, there's something else that's got to push it back. So it will come eventually. So we will have some rookie grades, and we're going to have some offseason stuff eventually, and now potentially some more offensive coordinator news if and when it happens. So stay tuned to bucsnation.com for that.
Greg Allman here. One final update. When Liam Cohen was first asked about being courted for an NFL head coaching job a month ago, his answer on the podium was that he didn't have time to think about it because he had a child sick at home. Holy shit, dude. The jokes write themselves.
Yeah.
Blames his sick. I'm going to start doing that. I don't even have kids, and I'm going to start blaming my sick kid on everything wrong that I do in my entire life.
You did. I mean, yeah, you said before the show, it's like a Curb episode. You know, it's like we're Larry David. It's...
yeah, my kid was real sick, so we drove up to her doctor in Jacksonville. Just want to get it figured out. I also interviewed for the Jags job, but yeah, she's real sick. I, trying to get some medication from the doctor, and
then boom, yep.
Oh my goodness, that'd be the perfect outro for this episode. Last but not least, you can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But that's the show. Thank you once again, everybody hanging out with us on YouTube. Buck Wild, the moderator, holding it down. TB13, it's Ed, Vincent Price, Richard T from the West Coast, Scott H, Mike Searinger, Dagan Zero, MH, MK, Mikey Kelly, Darth Vader, Aaron Lamaster. Yeah, the Dark Lord is in here. Matt Harrelson, Landshark, David Arbuckle, Corey Hall, Chauncey Ellerby, Reckon, Tones Mac, and I think that'll do it. Fuzzy Cuzzy, KIF.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody joining in. We had well over 100 people here, right? It's an emergency podcast. This is the off season though, right? Anything can happen at any point. So, if there's Bucs news, just wait a little bit. We will be here. We will be here to discuss it, just like tonight. So no doubt about it.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will keep you updated on more Buccaneer news every step of the way. Player grades going to be coming out this weekend as well. Evan takes a deep dive into every position group from the 2024 season and breaks it down. So it should be some good stuff. Be on the lookout for that. YouTube.com/cannonfirepodcast. I'm your host, Rhett Matthews, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.